Cardiovascular Institute of the South is celebrating 40 years of delivering healthcare to our patients and communities. Founded by Dr. Craig Walker in 1983 and guided by a mission to provide the highest quality cardiovascular care available, CIS has pioneered hundreds of firsts to improve outcomes for cardiovascular diseases. Through new technology, virtual care, outpatient procedures, and national growth, CIS is improving lives and leading the way for advanced care and innovation.
Everybody, welcome back to Bayou Time. Harry McCullough here. Non-consensual disclosure of private images. It's one of today's things that are happening, and it happened here in Terrebonne Parish. Terrebonne Sheriff's First Lieutenant Blake Tabor is here to talk about this. It's something I didn't grow up with, but it's an issue and things, and you guys have had an arrest, and maybe you can explain it a little more.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, obviously these kind of situations are probably a little more prevalent than we really talk about on a great deal of issues. But, this particular instance, we have a person that we arrested by the name of Mikel Joseph Delot. It's a 21-year-old male. You see him here from Thibodaux. So on August 11th, our patrol division was called to an address where a victim was alleging that some explicit photos of her had surfaced on a social media site. And so, anytime we get those types of complaints, and we get them pretty frequently, those are very difficult to try to trace and track. But there are instances such as this one where we're able to do that pretty easily. And that ended up surfacing in this case. So once we arrived at that address, of course, it was a female of age. There's no juveniles involved in this particular investigation, but she was communicating with Mr. Delot and ultimately sent him some explicit photos, which again were for his eyes only. As
volunteered, right? Yeah.
Right, as she intended. But again, Mr. Delot took it upon himself to send those images out to other people, as well as posting them on a social media site. Again, we're not going to name what site it is, but those were disseminated obviously against her wishes and without her consent. So at that point, we made contact with Mr. Delot at his home in Thibodaux, and he was ultimately brought in for an interview and arrested for non-consensual disclosure of a private image. He is currently, at the time of this, he was still incarcerated on a $2,500 bond.
So, it's just something to be aware of. And you say, it probably happens with juveniles and older people now, but it's not right. You can't take it upon yourself just because somebody sends it to you to send it to other people.
Absolutely. And look, we talk about this all the time with social media and the way in which people are interacting with each other. It's, it doesn't seem like there's any dates anymore.
Right.
It's almost like you're having an online relationship before you even meet someone for the first time. But it's important for people to realize that, getting photos from another consenting adult is not necessarily against the law. It's not a good practice,
right,
but it's certainly not necessarily against the law. There are certain criteria that could cause that to be against the law. But anytime you disseminate a photo of someone on a social media site or even texting it to a friend or relative without their permission is against the law. Right. And so it's really important that somebody realize that, that people out there realize that, because this happens far too frequently.
Yeah, no, it is definitely a sign of the times for sure, when I think like almost half of relationships now start online.
Absolutely.
At the online sites. All right, so let's talk about Hero Fest. And we've been talking about this a little bit, but September 20th, 21st, 22nd, Hero Fest. Not the Kings of Leon, but the Kings of Neon are also pretty darn good. And this is a great time for you guys, right?
Absolutely. So look, this was, again, we talked about it last week, but last year was our maiden voyage with Hero Fest. And again, this isn't just our agency that's incorporated with this. The Houma Police Department and lots of other public safety partners are involved with this to make this thing really drive and go. But we're expecting bigger things in year two. Of course, we talked about the Kings of Neon's going to be performing on Friday, again with the headliner Rodney Atkins that's going to be performing on Saturday. So we're hoping that he's going to really bring out a big crowd. But we're doing some other things this year that we think people are going to be interested in. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is the 5K race. So again, this was something that we did last year. This is going to be held on Saturday morning. Anyone can participate for a small fee. Again, signups are on the Hero Fest website. You'll be able to easily find that. And we're hoping to get a better turnout this year than we did last year. The neighborhoods directly around the Civic Center are going to be the neighborhoods that are going to be used for running or walking, if you will. And of course, law enforcement is going to be out there patrolling the area and making sure that everyone can do that in a very safe manner. The next thing I want to talk about is probably something that is going to pique a lot of interest in people. You know, most people realize that law enforcement, we're very competitive people. So this year we're doing something very different. It's called the Valerie and Victory 2024. You see the graphic here on the screen. But this is going to be a law enforcement versus fire and EMS competition.
Nice.
So you see items such as bench press competition, a truck pull. There's going to be a 5K race, a 1,000-meter row, vertical jump, grip strength, fireman's carry, and the one that I'm looking forward to is the 40-yard dash, and then also the medicine ball throw. So, you know, you're going to be able to see law enforcement officers that you're dealing with or that you've dealt with before, or maybe that's friends and family, competing against other firefighters and EMS. So it's going to be a great time, and everyone is allowed to come and watch this free of charge, of course.
Like a triathlon.
Absolutely.
Not a triathlon, I should
almost
say.
like a
decathlon. Decathlon, right.
Yep.
So you see the world's greatest athlete, you'll see the world's greatest law enforcement first responder.
That's right.
This is awesome. I hope everybody's ready to run the 40-yard dash. And
I hope so, too.
We don't have hamstrings and you know. And
we're hoping no one falls flat on their face, but if they do, it's all for a good cause.
We'll videotape it or make fun.
Absolutely.
So either way, it's going to be great. This is a great event. We talked about it. It's always a great time to be able to see folks out too, right? Where you guys are hands-on with people.
Absolutely. And look, I think that's our favorite part of this event is that we get to interact with the public in a way that we traditionally don't get to do. You know, and it's important to reiterate that, you know, we're just normal people. We just do a very unnormal job. So anytime that we can get out and deal with the community and, you know, put a positive vibe towards what we do and our relationships with the community is always a plus in our book.
Okay. I can't wait to see you run the 40-yard dash.
I don't know if I'm going to be running it.
Let those younger dudes do it.
That's right.
For sure. All right, that's Blake Tabor with Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office. We'll be right back with more Bite Time after this.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough.